projects. So the story I want to say here is a great pleasure to have you back here. What's interesting, I think, about the work of the office, and actually this goes almost back into the incubation period. There are not so many houses, not so many. That's unusual. Maybe a sign, like don't do houses. Just do really big institutions. So they have a lot of institutions, and in fact the institutions get bigger and bigger. But interestingly, the kind of architectural moves maybe get smaller and smaller. So somehow as the scale of the commission, the scale of the opportunity gets bigger, the actual maneuvers and the precision gets more, these are kind of quite simple structures, quite simple buildings, but with very complicated effects. So maybe, and it's too easy to say, I see these architects very much in the middle of the mind of the architect, which has always been a mind that tries to achieve a lot with a little bit, like to achieve everything with almost nothing. And if the architect has not so much big role in society, nevertheless to express the big thoughts. So basically playing with input and output, like having actually quite small amount of input and huge output, quite small elements, but a big result. Very simple geometry, just a shifting of the color and an explosion, right? So I think this is, in this sense, they are, I was going to say cliche, but it's right in the cliche understanding of what the modern architect was trying to do, right? And so in that sense, I think it could be quite simple to understand that the lecture you're about to hear is something like a kind of update on the thinking of the architect today, working on the same problem of always, which is how to do a lot with a little. And I think that becomes a more miraculous assignment when actually society gives you a lot to do. And right now you have a very major role, particularly I think in the recent thinking of the mega planning concepts and so on for Madrid. And anyway, it's just a long-winded way to say you're sort of super welcome here.
Thank you. I think this is working. Thank you to Columbia University, to Mark. Concerning the young architects, we always try to follow the advice that a friend of us gave to Emilio and me, and say, try to be always a kind of young, promising architect, because beyond that, there is nothing. That's why people with 50 years, as we are, or 55, but they say, well, we have this young architect here. No? Well, we'll try to speak. We remember when we were. No, it's working. Yes, we remember when we were students. So that is to say, many years ago, that we have a kind of perplexity. That we had when looking at the projects. Sometimes we wonder if the ideas just come and fall from the heather. And so we thought it would be interesting. It would be interesting for you and also maybe for us. It would be an interesting idea, try to explore where buildings come from. Where architecture comes from, well, never part. Well, just we can, after a while, we can confirm what maybe you suspect, that these buildings don't come from Paris directly. So the idea is to talk about the process, about the making of a project, and we will try to speak about tools and strategies that we use throughout our work. So the concerns that arise and how we went about them. And so we will begin at the beginning. We will begin at the beginning of this process of the MUSAC building. So at a certain moment, a logo competition was held by the director of the institution. And it was very surprising that the winner proposed not to have a logo, but to use just these words, MUSAC. Well, according to different events, changing graphics, typography, and context. So that's to say that you can use this logo, just shaving MUSAC on the back of your head, or writing with chocolate, or knitting in a pillow, or scribbling on the back of your hand. No? And that very unexpected proposal, it was very interesting because expresses very precisely the character that the museum wanted to have, which is dynamism, transformation, participation, and openness. No, so we would like to take you on a ride throughout this process of the MUSAC with this lady, which is hiking. Well, the idea is that generally, at least in Europe, architects believe that there is a kind of, they believe in the importance of the site, but the physical site. But the first idea we want to transmit is that there are another landscapes, which are maybe as tangible as the physical site. Well, we have choose here these 6 landscapes, which is, well, personal, intellectual, geometrical material, historical, artistic, or social, natural. It's clear that in every project, in this project, there are more landscape to work with, and in every project that you work, there will be another different landscape. But this is a kind of world which is around us, and that's previous. Not, I mean, we don't need to be architects to live in this kind of world. No? When a project starts, some parts of this world will be selected to form part of the project, to become part of the project. And somehow they will be magnetized. They will be attracted by the project in order to put together all these parts that we are concerned with, and then start working. What is the aim of this lecture? The aim of this lecture is to say that to do that, some transformation of this information has to be made. This is a kind of technique of doing projects, which, well, of course, is not the truth. We are not giving you the truth, not even we are giving you our truth. I mean, we are giving just an idea of how it will be possible to organize or to work with the things we have around in order to form a project. So at a certain moment, some part of this huge world we have around, it will form part of the project, and a process of transformation, it's needed in order to put together all these things. So we will go counterclockwise around all these, let's say, all these 6 landscapes, we call it. There are more, but well, we thought that maybe it would be interesting just to go through these 6 aspects. Well, first one is the personal one. We don't like this word. To speak about something personal, it seems, well, we don't feel very comfortable. But what we mean by personal? We mean by personal the concerns we have as human beings, even if we are architects or we are not architects. So this is to say, the way we lay in this world, the way we consider our relationship with nature, with art, with culture, or whatever. And that's very important because, in our opinion, in general terms, it will last all the lifetime. And this is related with some kind of experience that I don't know if you sometimes have. Sometimes you see a building and you point to it and you can say, well, this building was made by Alvarado. And maybe you have never seen before this building, or Alvarado, or whatever, no? But this is to say, you are able to recognize that in this plan, in this photograph, there is a fight. There is a fight, or in this case, let's say, between the idea of putting the world in a kind of abstract order and making possible at the same time the dynamism of the life. And when you see these two things happening in a plan, you can point it out and say, well, this is a building made by Alvarado. So let's just say that when you start a project, there is something, a kind of a prioristic, which is the way you think about this world. In our case, we are always focusing in this idea of equality and difference, which is maybe something that comes from the starting architecture when Franco died and it was a dictatorship or whatever. So it's a social, it's a political idea, but it's also an architectonic idea. So our question is, would it be possible to make visible somehow, when you look at architecture, this idea of feeling like belonging to a group, recognizing ourselves like a part of a group? Say, well, we are part of the same group. At the same time, we can feel absolutely different. And this idea of equality difference, it comes through all the projects we have done, let's say, during these 25 years. There are parts of the project that can be, well, we'll say, well, this is not important, this is not important, this is not important. Well, that is important. That's important. And that can be made in a different ways. Very quickly, for instance, speaking about our first project. This is the Museum of Zamora. Of course, there were a lot of different problems, but let's go to the heart of the thing. The heart of the thing is there are a family of skylights that are absolutely identical, but according with the orientation, according with the distance, with the not the roof, the floor, according to the space, it will make different lights and different space in the interior. No, it's the Museum of Zamora, in the roof, in the top level. But let's say the Auditorium of Castellón, there are a lot of things related with acoustics. There are a lot of problems. We are not going here to speak about this problem, but at the end it's a family of windows. They recognize themselves as belonging to a group, because, well, there is an orthodox order. You can see 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 divided, and there is a proportion between this, well, the height and the depth of the windows. And in the interior of that, there is a hole, an actual window, which is related with the interior necessities. But we are always focusing this idea of equality and difference. Or in the Museum of Castellón, we try to enter with this idea in the interior of the building, working with sections. Well, we start thinking, well, we work with the roof, we work with the facade. What about working inside with this idea? So there are like 4 different levels or different plans, and then a double high space is disposed like a cascade that make every floor different when you go through it. So in one hand, you have the same surface, you have the same, to exaggerate, the same screws in every plan, but when going through it, become different. So somehow this idea of equality and difference can be expressed by a family of skylights, by a family of windows, by a family of double heights. All the projects we have done could be explained through this idea. So you have here, this is like a kind of map of what we have done in these 25 years. Well, there's the geometric ones at the beginning we were speaking about, but you can work with this kind of geometries, very simple geometries that we will speak. You can work with circles, for instance, a family of circles. They will recognize themselves like belonging to the family of circles, but they will be different on size, or petals of flowers, well, whatever. So the interesting thing, it's and this is incredible. You take just one idea, whatever it is, and it can be expressed in many different ways. You can keep, well, not a whole life. Maybe next year, if we have the opportunity to be back here, we will explain another thing. But right now, it seems incredible how infinite is whatever idea you just focus on it. So in a way, every plan can be explained to that. So we transform this idea of equality and difference through this plan in which there are just square and rhombus, rhombus, square, square, rhombus, square, rhombus, etc. And the light, which is the cheapest material of doing architecture, it will make different every part. So even in this wild rigidity, the space will become different, but at the same time they will recognize themselves as belonging to a kind of family, which is something, as we were seeing before, it's important. Well, just some images of the interior of the MUSAC, just when it was finished, to express this idea that depending how the light is coming, well, from skylights, from corridors, from windows, it will make different what is exactly equal. What is exactly equal. It's incredible for us when we arrive to the lobby of the project that the client asked us about having 8 different directions or doors, whether it was the cafeteria, it was offices, library, the museum itself, entrance, whatever. No? So at that point, it's more, well, it's like 11 meters, the size of these naves. So at that point we have 2 squares and 2 rhombus, so it becomes 22 meters. 22 meters. For us it was very nice to think that in the lobby of this museum it was the size of the first museum, the total size of the first museum we have done. So you can put that you spent 4 years to design this museum, you know, and maybe for this we spent 4 weeks. No? But that was interesting. So, so the problem is that you need a beam, which is torted somehow. It's not a straight beam. If you want to continue with the discipline of having the same geometry, so that gives a very huge beam. So this beam it will be seen over this flat museum because the client asked to have just 1 floor. So we decided, well, is there something up to this building, well, there will be the same than the other things that are going up in the building, which are skylights. Also, we decide, well, let's put a skylight here, and we will see. And the incredible thing is that when we make that, the beam is crossing this way, as you can see. So one skylight will receive northern light, a blue and soft light, and the other one will receive south light, which is yellow and strong. And that's an important and incredible lesson for us in architecture. We were dealing during 25 years about equality and difference, and just going ahead with a technical problem, it appears, in our opinion, the nicest view of this equality and difference. Because when it's later on in the afternoon, in the evening, they will interchange their roles, and there will be a kind of soft light in one part, and very bright and solid and orange light in the other. So this is a kind of work very heavy. Doing architecture is something very heavy, but there are some instants of pleasure. And this is when you discover something that is beyond your creativity, and then it appears at an unexpected thing, and then you become not the architect but the spectator of this thing. And this is the only pleasure, well, we think it's the only pleasure of architecture. While the rest you have to work a lot. That's it. Let's go to the second landscape, that we use this word intellectual, but we don't like this word. But we are architects, we are not writers. It's normal that we don't like this word. This is also a kind of physical space, which is the concerns architects will have. And we can see that as something very, well, it's very complicated, but at the same time it's very simple. It's very simple because architecture is an impure art. That is to say that we have ideas, but we have to deal with these ideas with reality, with gravity, with budgets, with clients, with regulations. So at a certain moment, sooner or later, it will appear contradictions. And the intellectual pleasure of architecture is to deal with these contradictions. This is the interesting part of the architecture. So, in a way, well, this drawing made by one person of the one architect of the office, well, he was trying to establish the module of the glasses of the perimeter. But what we are speaking about is what is the role of the architect on deciding the form of the building, which, well, I don't know, maybe it seems something very simple for you or not, or maybe something very complicated, but well, we were concerned about discussion. I mean, when you can start thinking that, well, maybe it's better to define the form of a building through diagrams of people crossing through, when you can establish the form of the building through the speed of the cars that are close to this high road or highway, or when you can work with computers and make skylines. There is a problem there. The problem is, well, say, general, not going very, very deep. The problem is, what is the way of dealing with this problem of defining form? Is something that belongs directly to the inspiration or the arbitrarity of the architect, or should we take into consideration exterior aspects that will help us to explain to us and to the others what is the right form or the necessary form of the things? No? So we start working with this idea with the MUSAC, with these open systems. So we arrived, and at that moment we changed totally the way of thinking architecture. Before that, there was like kind of buildings that has, to explain it very quickly, like a center or hierarchy. It's you can recognize that there is an origin. Well, just imagine a cathedral in which is you can recognize where is the center, where is the aisles, where are the most important parts or not. But we start trying to imagine it will be possible to work with a kind of doing architecture in which every part knows what it's close to it, but it doesn't care about what is the relationship with the other forms, because that will be an interesting idea of answering about the final formal of the project. Not that those are like different stages of the scale, angles, etc. for the museum, but at a certain moment we realize that the final shape or form of the building, it was not important at all. Because during the process of the project and during the process of construction even, there was the client say, well, I would need some more space for exhibition. Well, that doesn't matter. We can add a square or a rhombus. Well, I don't need more the space for stockage is too big. Well, don't worry, we will take one. We will take out one rhombus. No. So through this process, which was not the aim of the aim of the investigation, we realize that a system which is not hierarchical, so which is just based in part-to-part relations, makes indifferent somehow the actual or the final form of the building. That is to say that it doesn't matter maybe if this is the final form, but it will be different for someone of you or of us that arrives there and visits the site. It will remember the space as being the same. And the idea, it will not change. It will not change even if there is formal change. So, well, this is a model which is trying to explain that you can add or transform part of it without taking care about what the final formal of the building is. Let's go to the next landscape, which is about construction. The client asks us just 3 things. You know, maybe here you have like a book like this, but in Spain the program is just a 10 minutes conversation, which is, I don't know if it's good or bad, but no, I don't know. But he said, well, I want just 1 floor. I want you to enter in 8 parts when entering in the lobby. That was appear this special geometry. And I want the building to be done very quickly. So we thought that we have to think about the structural system and construction system. So this idea of equality and difference, it was very useful for that, because we built that with 65 beams that are absolutely equal. No? It's the same, it's benefits in a rhombus, and if it is in a square, it is exactly the same. So we decided to go to this process of restriction of materials and transformation. So we decided, well, the walls will be made in white concrete, the beams will be made in white concrete, the floor, it will be made in black concrete, but the material, it will be the same. And construction, finishing, let's say, a space, it will be the same thing. Once that you build that, the building is almost finished. Well, here, I think we have here a little like a kind of small history of the construction of the building. It was incredible, no? The people that have start doing a part, they continue doing these parts, and it doesn't matter if there is additions or not. They know exactly how to do it. So we will arrive to this space, which was actually very important. So we are displacing to this historical, so what is the relationship between the building and the history of the city, of the context? We were very concerned from the 19th about avoiding formal relationships with the things we have around, which was very important in Europe and especially important in Spain. So there was a kind of fight of saying, well, don't think about if you have this kind of window, you have to do this kind of window, just think about which is the concept of this window and try to make the concept of this window at least. No? That was very interesting. So at that point, at this point, maybe I have to explain that it's very difficult to explain a process which is not linear in a linear way. So I'm sorry about that. But a PowerPoint is something that after one image, it comes another image. And well, we try to make this in counterclockwise and to make a circle or whatever, but it's clear that these kind of things doesn't happen one after the other. It's more a process in which at different moments and with different importance appears concerns that you have to deal with and to try to put in the same form. Well, the idea is that this part of the city that you can see here in the upper part, it's a new part of the city, so there are just blocks of dwellings and park spaces. So we thought that it would be necessary to have like a kind of piazza or plaza, of square. So and that's the explanation of this part of the form. So the form, the overall form of the building, it was not important, except by the idea of having like two arms embracing or receiving the people that live in this part of the city. So at the very beginning, the project, the client asked us, well, I would like the most modern building, and I would like to have like a giant video wall covering all the space. Well, we said, but let's do it. Let's do it. When we arrived to the client with the budget, we say, well, you know, sir, the budget of the building is 10, and the budget of the video wall is 10. So what do you want us to do? We'll say, well, forget about the video wall. Well, forget about the video wall, and there were some colors here. Well, we start going ahead with the project, and then, well, it happened something interesting. We start dealing with these colors. I don't know you, but we don't have any artistic background. So sometimes you start with the colors. What do you think? Too red. What do you think? Too green. What do you think? Too fashionable. Too old-fashionable. Oh my God! 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Too exaggerated. No, too shy. What? So we decide to go to the Prime Minister and say, "What, Prime Minister? We think that this building it will be wonderful just in white." So let's try to convince the client, no? And then at that moment he said something marvelous. He said, "You promise me colors, and you have to give me colors." So, my God, a nice client, no? At least he knows what he wants. no, which is so strange. So Emilio and me back 350 kilometers to Madrid in car, in silence. What to think about? Well, at a certain moment, we make a visit with a friend, and then we went to the cathedral. And these friends say, "Oh, what nice colors." And then I look to Emilio look at me and say, "We got it. We got it." So we didn't say anything. So we took this part of the, ¿cómo se dice una vidriera? Stained glass, no? Which is the most ancient part. It's called the hunter of the Leon, and we go through a process of digitalization. I think maybe here it can be expressed very well, this idea of transformation. So you can establish a relationship with the city, with the cathedral, which was the ancient public space of the city. You can take something and transforming it by means of your time. Then maybe this digitalization, it would be impossible to be done 15 years ago, well, at least in Spain, maybe here, but it will be impossible to do, no? And it's very interesting because, well, we arrived to this part, and so people of the city knows that, and some of them says, "Oh, I can see the hunter," which is absolutely impossible, no? You have to be at like 40 kilometers the distance of but it doesn't matter. It's the point is the faith. They know that the hunter is there. The hunter is there. And let's go ahead with this process of, that's what we suggested to the client, but he didn't want. And the incredible thing, and this lecture is part of something that you have thought and something that you discover after. It was the process of putting distance or taking distance or distancing. Distancing is an English verb, distancing from things. So at a certain moment, these colors doesn't belong to us. That was the problem when we were trying to do the colors, no? That they were our colors with our signature, ugly or not ugly, but there was a kind of will present on that. But it's clear that we, as a Spanish architects, we will never put the Spanish flag in this building, no? So it's a matter of putting distance on it and being surprised by the things you are doing that belong somehow to the others and not to you. Well, the idea with the plan, it was the same. Leon, that if you translate it directly, it means lion, but the name, it doesn't come from a lion, it comes from a military camp by Romans, which was called Legio Septima. So the name, that's to say that it was a kind of Roman, well, it was a Roman origin of the city. So we took Roman pavement of the museum, and we established our process of scaling it in order to transform this geometry as the plan of the building. So we took this part and then we enlarged it. It meant, once again, let's say we steal, dice robar, steal. We steal some part of the history of the city and we transform it and appears to be part of the project. Which that was very interesting because some time later when we saw this proposal, we realized that actually the MUSAC, it was like French fries altogether, but that was later. It would be nice to have seen at the very beginning, no? And that the museum should be like French fries. So, but what's the interesting thing? That once again you are taking distance of it and you are disappearing. So nobody, well, in our opinion, will recognize when visiting the MUSAC that this is a proposal made with this amount of squares and rhombus that are absolutely rigidus, wildly rigidus, but become invisible somehow. And that's maybe the most interesting and the most difficult part of architecture. Let's say the first one is to have an idea. The second one is to make it invisible in order to free up space for the others. The less space you are consuming, there will be more space for the others, for visiting people. Well, it will be also some photographs, really interesting, the view of what you discover when doing that you are used maybe, or you thought the visibility of the building, it will be through naves, but when it's built or constructed, you realize that your eyes are obedient to you. They will look as they want. Well, as a matter of fact, that was a lesson of history. For instance, let's say that the Alhambra de la Mezquita de Córdoba, which is made with this idea. So it's a column, close, there is an arch, there is a column, there is an arch, there is a column, there is an arch. It will be never, you will never take the photograph in this direction, but in diagonal format. But we realized that later. We realized that later. So, well, some photographs about this entrance of the light through colors in the areas that is possible, not the exhibiting areas, for instance, cafeteria, bar, shop, whatever. So let's go through another landscape. And the idea is that, well, I have to be very, very careful, because I remember I was giving a lecture in, I think it was in Stockholm, no? And I was trying to say that there are like different levels in architecture, no? But instead of saying that there are several layers, I say, well, in architecture there are several layers, no? So well, layers. I want to say layers. So the idea is that there are different words, different parts of work, and you are always trying to magnetize and to put them, giving an idea of what you think about this part of the world with the same form. But it's clear that it's very important, that it was very important, the way the museum wanted to work. And it was kind of transformation that we made during these 10 years. Say, first museum we made in 90s, the beginning of 90s, it was like an archaeological museum, and it was made in a historical and chronological process, and it was based in most important parts. Like when we went to the Museum of Castellón, we started thinking that, well, the importance, it was not just the site, the building, and the works of art. It was important also the people that was visiting this art, no? So we tried to make this kind of stomach, void stomach, just for people to see one to each other, no? And we try to go ahead with this idea of having the MUSAC as something in which you are thinking contemporary and pieces of art and person as forming part of the same time. No? We like very much this photograph, which is the day of the opening. I think the king is more or less like this, okay, there. But, well, the interesting thing is that the absence of will of these combinations of colors is the absence of will of that combination of colors that are present up there. No? And that was that was interesting for us, no, to consider that the building could be, well, there's some workers on art. I see that there is a lot of people that speak Spanish here, no? Or there are just important words. There are just important words in English. Bueno, vivo sin trabajar. Well, what was interesting is the changement of the philosophy of this very unpopulated area of Spain. Is the most unpopulated area of all Europe. Of all Europe. So there is well, you can see los curas aquí, no? In this combination, well, they saw everything. They saw everything. But well, there was this for instance, this idea, this work from Thomas Hirschhorn, in which you are just crossing through, walking through this work of art. So it's not anymore this idea of having distance. The ambition of the museum is to present the art as something that can be touched and can be able to establish a relationship with it. That was Little MUSAC. Well, these themes, seriousness of the genre. There was this very wonderful, nice. Sorry, understand? You know. But just for me to have a second of in every moment there will be like okay. No. Okay. Sorry. Well, this is was the collection. That was very nice. No? That was an exhibition in Catundo Sijima. The house 1 to 2 scale in the interior of MUSAC. So you can see the small chairs. So actually, it's more like a soup of Istanbul. Every day it will change according to the people that it's making different things, or but we are in these concepts are more traditional. So everything became not hierarchical in a way. I don't know if there is well, this is very nice, this exhibition of El Green in Raxet that was especially made for this, for the MUSAC. And it was 6 houses that represent 6 different events of his personal life. Well, you can see that more like how to say it, kind of a stage in which there will appear different things in different ways, while concerts and problems of what with animals. Well, let's go to the last one, because which is nature. Nature. It was. It was before doing this MUSAC project. We made this small museum that was close, 60 kilometers, 70 kilometers, and the auditorium. So we spent like 7 years. That every Wednesday we cross Spain. We go to the site, a visit, by car, and coming back. No? And it was very, very impressive what we used to see in this unpopulated area. And maybe if we have to tell you the truth, that starts at that moment. No? We remember crossing every Wednesday in winter, in summer, in spring, in autumn, this void, absolutely void area. And in the interior of that, there was these fields, I think it's plowed fields. Oh, and after 2 or 3 years, one day we were, Emilio and me and Karen said, well, it's incredible. So if there is a very strict order, the relation between things, the perimeter becomes absolutely indifferent because the order is referred to that, to the interior, no? And we ask ourselves, it would be possible to make a building like this. It would be possible to make a building in which the internal order is so strong that it becomes indifferent, the order, let's say, in the other part, in the perimeter or in the form, in the actual form of the building. So at a certain moment, it becomes together, like several things, it becomes together the idea of having a very geometrical order that becomes independent. The idea of what is the role of the architect in the definition of architecture. The idea of having a non-hierarchical building. The idea of having a connection with the history with Roman pavement, no? Well, that was the same with the, it's like a flock of birds. No, we were traveling and saying, oh, this is nice, no? Look at this flock of birds. Someone will say, well, this is like a whale. No, it's not like a whale. This is another kind of fish. It looks like a dog, no? Everyone will see in this flock a different thing. But this is not the important part. The important part is if you take out some parts of the birds, or you put more birds, or you put different birds, the idea that will be the same. Everybody will say, well, this is a flock of birds. This is a flock of birds. And Emilio and me was asking, well, would it be possible to make a building like this? Well, it's a nice question that I leave to you to do this kind of building, which is very difficult, and we were not able to do, no? And also this very interesting story for us when we presented the first project to the, let's say, the Prime Minister. Well, Prime Minister, good morning, and with Mansilla, good morning. How's everything? Back. And what's that? Well, that's a museum. You can see here is the entrance. There will be the collection. There will be exhibition. There is one floor. And he said, "Well, I love it. I love it. But what is it? Why? Look at Emilio. Look at me. Well, this is a museum. Here is the entrance. The rhombus. the origin of the city. It's wonderful. I actually like it. But what is it? What is it? Sorry, Prime Minister, we don't understand what you are asking us. Oh, yes, because, well, that was that time in Spain. Well, you know, there are buildings like fish or like mountains. And what should I say? What should I say to a journalist? My God, we don't know. Emilio and me 350 kilometers in silence, back to Madrid. Well, at a certain moment, we discovered that this part of Spain, which is called Castilla y León, well, is just the physical space of a river, which is called Duero, with wine. I recommend the wine. And it's just defined by that, the region. So, well, Emilio, we have to go. We have to go. I said, well, Prime Minister, well, look, this museum is like the river, Duero. You know, you can see here you can see the movement of the water, that it's coming up and down. You know, there are seven regions, and we have 7 spaces. And well, at the end, well, the art is like the water. It's always the same and always different. No? I say, well, great. Well, let's go with the journalist. No? And then it's incredible because 7 years later, every time that the MUSAC appears in the newspapers, is the MUSAC, which is like the river Duero. So that's an important reflection, because we don't believe you can build architecture with metaphors, because you become like exposed from the very beginning. No, if we say, well, I want to make a building which is like the river, but you cannot move. You have no freedom. But we have to reflect about that fact that we have to explain things, and sometimes for explaining things, we need metaphors. So what's happening that we need metaphors for explaining buildings? And well, the only security is, well, we cannot use them for producing architecture, because you will have the capacity of moving in quantity terms, but not in quality terms. You will not escape from that. So 6 or 7 years later, every time, well, the MUSAC, which is we are almost finishing with this photographs. There are nice photographs about this order that has, well, you can see very well the river here, or here, even better. And just to before finishing, just trying to recover what we have said, which is not very difficult, it's very normal. I mean, we have a work. We are architects, but before that, we are persons as the others, most of us. So, in this world, in every project, some part of it will form part of the project. It will be selected somehow. But through this process of transformations by the means, we will try to arrive to a simple as possible form in which, let's say, it can be visible for who's that want to see it, different levels. An opinion or a will in relationship to the city, to the history of the city, to the concerns about how to exhibit, even if they are different. Well, that will be different in any case with our personal concerns. And the work is trying to magnetize and put together all these things. It's a hard work, but it's a nice work. It's a nice work. Well, and just for finishing, we will go to the beginning again, because something very, very interesting happened. Well, I know that here, you in the United States, you are very precise with the timing of the works, but this doesn't happen in Spain at all. So we were asked to make a very quick building, and we did it. But the client was not faithful on it. So the first programmation, it was like 3 months later. No, he said, well, they will take 3 more months. I will prepare for exhibition. So we are finished on time, and that was a problem for the director, because the building was finished and nothing to do with the building. No, it was impossible. So he has an incredible idea, a very cheap idea. He said, well, let's do an exhibition which is called the exhibition is made by you, or something like that. No, see, so he asked all the children of the city, there were like 18,000, to go to the museum and to put to do a drawing and to put a drawing on the paper, because he promised to the parents of the children that he will keep the drawings in the museum. No, so they are very proud. They're proud. Oh, my daughter has a drawing in the museum. You know, it's true that we have seen that. And actually, they are keep. So, but it was very interesting. So it was a very cheap exhibition. So everybody went to the building. It was Christmas time also. It was interesting. There were space for doing that. There were time for doing that. And the interesting thing is that people understand what was the character of the building, in which they expect people to somehow participate or be engaged in this kind of institution. That's very nice. That was made by Eduardo, el MUSAC, with the door, incredible door. It's very nice. It's very nice. So this idea of trying to having the same photograph for the people than for the building, it was very important for us. Well, and just to finish, this is the final one. Last summer, there was a friend of us who sent this photograph and say, I don't know if it's good or if it is bad. Okay. Because before the construction of the MUSAC, after the wedding, no? The wedding, people goes to the cathedral to have a photograph. And now they have decided that it's much more better to go to the MUSAC. I think it's also because the sun in west, well, it's not exactly. But the interesting thing is that this back of the building, it appears to be like a landscape or something. It's something that, well, it belongs, it's nothing. It's nothing, let you say. It's like having a tree which is green, or maybe it's orange, or maybe it's red in autumn. You make the photograph, and the protagonist, it will be these people. And this is something that is very nice, and we are very happy. So everybody moved to the MUSAC to make his wedding photograph. So the director, which is very clever, thought that the next exhibition, it can be to have all the photographs of the people, and we are sure that he will sell all the catalogs. No? Thank you very much.
So, question.
Decision making of the project?
Yes, I think that definitely we were very, well, in direct terms, very lucky, because the director shared with us this idea. And he has been working during these 4 years, almost 4 years, and they used to make like 5 exhibitions every 6 months. It's very interesting, the process, because there are 5 different exhibitions that maybe sometimes one are, well, young local artists and foreign recognized people, a group of, and then the day of the opening, they moved all together in these different spaces. So I think it was very clever, and he's fighting very hard. Very hard. Actually, it's a small city in nowhere land, and has become space for people from Madrid, and then they will come for the openings or to see. And you will go there, and there will be people always, all day. No, it's incredible. We're very lucky. I mean, the success is not just architectonic. The success is when the prime minister, the client, and the director feel that the idea is the same, and it's possible to share it. That was very important. Very important.
Hi. I'm wondering how the mechanical systems and environmental controls and energy efficiency plays into how you approach a building.
Well, I didn't have time to explain these kinds of things. In concept terms, do you remember the river of the roof? Yes. Well, every space, it has a separate control. So in mechanical terms, let's say in geometrical terms, the ducts, security, air condition, etc., is located in separate areas, and it comes through these walls of water. Well, it was also a concern, as you have seen, there were like high buildings, so the idea of offering a kind of roof, an interesting roof, it was also important, no? So they are divided, and in terms of efficiency, what is more important, let's say that in Spain, for the bad and for the good, we are retrasados, we are late, ¿cómo se dice? ¿Cómo? Behind. We are behind. And that means that, it has been absolutely important to keep the importance of passive systems. I mean, it's not a power country in technology terms, but it's actually a power country using materials let's say in passive terms. So you have the concrete, the white concrete, and then you have the insulation, you have an air chamber, and you have the glass. So for the sun, which is the biggest problem, so there is this kind of ventilation that comes out and make a lot of change of temperature necessities. But it's focused just in, let's say, well, ventilation, right, materials, and something that is very important for us, which is durability in economic terms. Sometimes to be sure that you can build a building that will resist 20 or 25 years is something, for us, something environmental.
Hi. You have said that you don't like using metaphors in your projects, but we all know the projects for Cantabria, for example, the mountains, or the flowers, or the can, for example, for the Olympic Games in Madrid. Why using that kind of metaphors?
No, we are using that kind of metaphors to explain to the prime ministers. No, but this is great. No, yes. No, it's this is curious because, for instance, the project of Cantabria. Well, I don't know if you know something about it, but it was like a step forward from this one. Here we have a square or rhombus, so we decide it will be possible. It will be possible to work just with one piece. So the Museum of Cantabria is there are no two different pieces, but it's the same piece, and you can put it like this. But when we interchange this freedom in sectional terms. So I don't know how to explain that. Well, you make a building and appears a concern, and the concern of the MUSAC, it was, well, okay, you can work with that, and there are a lot of advantages that we can recognize, but there is a kind of limitation. This is an extruded building. If I have to make a criticism of the MUSAC, no, it's you cannot make movements in sectional terms. So we said, well, next step, we have to assure that we can move in sectional terms. And for doing that, you have to reduce the complexity of the plan. So the idea, it was to work with just one figure and make it different, let's say, the section, which is something that doesn't exist at MUSAC. What to say, no? You cannot say, well, what is the section of the MUSAC? It doesn't exist because it's just one floor. So we have to deposit the expression of the building into the plan. That was the problem. This is another landscape. I didn't speak about this landscape, but it's another important landscape, no? So the idea is that if you can have the same plan and then building different shapes that actually they are just three different shapes that they move, it's an economic thing. I mean, that was possible if we reduce. But it appears to be all different, but they are not different. They are like the same, but interchanged. And that was the, let's say, the problem. But when we show the building, these people say, well, these are like the mountains. So we made that drawing with the mountains. But sometimes you have to hide, no? To hide, ¿cómo se dice? Esconder, to hide things. But it was more about equality and difference. So the idea, it was a political idea. Difference is just possible if there is a common order. It appears from that, but well, later on, it seems mountains, but well, for us, it was not important. It was not important at all. In the stadium, it was just the structural model. It was a can. So we decided to make a stadium that was open, but it was very difficult to solve in structural terms. So there was someone that the can said, well, this is like the can. And then, well, the photograph appears. But this, as I was saying before, there are no things linear. No? They appear in, let's say, in different moments. And it's true that you can explain very quickly the structural model of a building with a kind of code. But it's clear that there is not a can and then appear a building. No, they don't fall from heaven. No.
You described this lecture under three landscapes. Is that the way that you describe this project, or is that the way that you're thinking in architecture? And is there one of these 6 landscapes or whatever else that is your starting point in your design?
No, I was just trying to establishing the idea that the work of doing architecture, it has to do with a lot of different things, and that each one of them are important, not more important or less important. Let's say that in my opinion, in our opinion, it's impossible to establish a model of doing architecture without establishing what is our relationship with nature and culture. Maybe you don't know the words, but you have a feeling of it. And in our opinion, it's impossible to make it independently of that. And also there is a discussion about what architecture is and what are the concerns of the architecture are. And it's impossible to make a building and not having a reflection on that. And there, well, is the history, well, is the nature, whatever. But the starting point, it's very difficult. I will say that in In Leon, in MUSAC, the starting point, it was these plowed fields as an obsession. But it's more, imagine that you are like a gardener, no? And then you have some ideas and then you plant them. No? Well, what about doing that? What about doing that? What about doing that? And then you start spring, no? You water them, and then you see, well, that resists the water. That is not resisting the water. Let's say water structural system, for instance. No, there is a lot of sand here. Look, this is becoming dry. No, because it has nothing to do, for instance, with the concerns of the people in relationship with the function. No, because well, that decay, the flower. No, and then well, there is some spring, summer, autumn. No, well, and at the end, well, there is one that resists all these inputs. No, and then you just take it and that's it. No, well, we're joking, but in a certain sense, I mean, you check a lot of things, and you have to, and it's nice to see that some of them goes ahead, are able to receive like a base, different concerns, different preoccupations, let's say structural systems, electric systems, security problems, or whatever. No? Something that is very different in Spain than in the United States. It's that architects are personally responsible for all. That makes a big difference. I mean, that's why sometimes it looks like being a little bit conservative, because if you make a project of $600 million, there will be just one signature, and it's yours. So the structural engineer, it will disappear. I mean, if something happens, you go to the jail, and that's it. Nothing more. So that's why we are very engaged, sometimes maybe too engaged, thinking about this relationship between the structure, space, air conditioning, finishes, or water, which is also interesting, because in the other hand, if you are absolutely responsible, you have absolutely all the power. But it's something heavy. Sometimes it's something heavy.
I think it's actually a good moment to I mean, the combination of the little gardener,
Yes.
the innocent gardener, with the weight of $600 million.
Yes.
The reason we can stop is because we can talk a little bit informally.
Yes,
which
sure.
can be nicer, but also I think the drawing is very good answer to your question, because in the drawing of the lecture, the building becomes almost nothing. It becomes a very small test in the middle of these landscapes. In a way. And I think this is almost the reverse of a typical lecture. So it goes the other way around, and the landscape only serves the glory of the image. So it's a shame that we can't take a wedding photograph. I think it's a new kind of, to restate what I was saying at the beginning, it's some new idea about efficiency also, even the fact that only one person speaks. It's another way of understanding the garden thing, that you end up with the one thing that can sustain all of this other thing. So I think it's a very big lesson, very great pleasure to have you as our teachers.
Thank you.